Hi, I'm making this video about substituting because after I taught for quite a few years, I started substituting because I got laid off about 4 months ago. So I started subbing at the end of September, about 2 or 3 months ago. And I looked on YouTube to see if there was really much difference between substituting and regular teaching, and if there's any hints about substituting that might help me. And all the videos really didn't have real accurate, good information to tell substitutes. I think there's only 3 things you really got to know. Substitute teaching, and this isn't one of them, but substitute teaching is pretty easy. But if you don't do 3 or 4 things, you can make it harder on yourself. So here are 3 or 4 things that'll make it a lot easier to be a substitute. Number 1, when you come into that room, you let the students know that you are the teacher for the day. You are not the sub. Especially if they start saying, oh, it's a sub. You say, no, I'm your teacher or educator for the day. I'm not your sub. Your other teacher is gone. So put that in their mind. It's going to be easier on you. Now, whether the principal thinks that would be a good idea or not, you know what? You're in charge of the room. And the way to keep them on the straight and narrow is to, the faster they forget that their teacher's gone and that you're just a sub, things will get a lot better. Okay? You want to be real direct with them at the beginning by just saying, I'm your teacher. Take ownership of that room. Okay? Talk to them like you know them. Okay? Even though you don't know these students, talk to them directly. If there's any behavior problems whatsoever, deal with it. Not harshly, but be very direct. And what I tell them is, and I don't have a lot of behavior problems, and you shouldn't if you're a good substitute teacher or a teacher, but you will, even if you're a good substitute teacher or a good teacher, you will have them. And a good thing to tell them is that, and what I do is I give them 1 warning, and I will tell them at the beginning of the class, I will give you 1 warning. And if I have to warn you a second time, you are gone. Now, I don't even really bring that up, and I wouldn't bring that up if you know this classroom is going to be a good class. 85% of the time, I don't have to bring that up because I can just tell when they come in that they're a good class. If things just happen unforeseen, if they unravel a little bit, then you're going to have to say, hey, I'm going to give you 1 warning, Josephine, and that's the last one you're going to get. The second time I warn you, you're gone. Okay? I tell them kind of a little half fib. If I feel a class is getting a little out of hand, I tell them, look, I got permission from the secretary and the principal, or the assistant principal, whatever you want to say, there's an assistant principal there, to send any students down to the office if there's any behavior problems. Okay? Now, even though that's kind of a half truth, I say it so everything stays smooth. When the students hear that, very rarely do I ever have any behavior problems. If I forget to say that, I will tend to have a much greater chance of having a behavior problem. Next, a lot of people say, and I heard a few things on YouTube about don't become their friend right away. There's a difference between being direct with them and not being their friend. I say if you don't try to become a friend, or at least try to become a conversationalist with them, then you're going to have a real problem. They're not going to like you. They may not act out, but they're not going to like you. Why have that? I always try to bring up conversation, whether it's elementary schools. It's a little easier to bring up conversation and have conversation back and forth. When you're just trying to get to know them in middle school, when you're doing middle school, or upper elementary and high school. But either way, all kids like to talk about just general things. What I like to do is I like to talk about their public school sports, such as, hey, how did your high school football team do this weekend? Did they win? Are they going to state? Are they as good as they were last year? You can talk about basketball. Even the girls like talking about it. Whether it's football, basketball, whatever. And you know, if you start talking about sports, the girls will chime in. They'll say something just because they want to say whatever. I even sometimes talk about. I'll talk about the Lions, since I'm from Michigan. I'll talk about the Lions or the Michigan Wolverines or the Spartans, and everybody has an opinion about that. So that's a good way to, you know, like start becoming their friend. And if not their friend, at least some conversation so they know you have a human side and it's just not a sub. Okay, even though I say you're not a sub, you're an educator, you're their teacher, and you're there for the day and maybe more than a day, maybe for a couple days. Like I say sometimes, maybe your teacher's on vacation. Okay, I say that because, you know, they have called you there to be the educator for the day. Who knows where the teacher is? Okay, I'm here now. That's all they have to know. So those are just some things I keep in mind. If you keep those 2 or 3 things in mind while you're being a sub, and also follow the lesson plan, you'll be a really good substitute, and you shouldn't have a problem at all. Anyway, thanks for listening, and have a good time subbing.